All right, hello everyone. I just want to post this up to YouTube. I did a little video for Twitter earlier, but figured I'd do a little bit more self-contained video for YouTube. Overall, snowfall forecasts obviously haven't changed any since this afternoon. Generally thinking kind of a 2 to 4, 3 to 5 across the southern Midlands and into the Augusta area. As you move further north, kind of a 4 to 8 type event, and then potentially as high as like a 6 to 10 event in the northern Midlands and PD. As a current thinking, based on really consistent model guidance now, kind of trends that we would expect to see from this type of event as we get a little closer. And overall, that's the current thinking. Wanted to show a couple other little things here from our winter weather page, the Columbia office winter weather page. For the low end amount, so this is what we consider like this has a 90% chance of occurring, or as basically a reasonably lowest case scenario. In this case, pretty much the whole area can expect to see some accumulating snow with really high confidence, especially in northern Midlands where we're very confident to see 2 to 4 inches of snow. And then if we look at the high end scenario, don't get too drawn away with the kind of the spread of those very high numbers across the map. Realistically, what's going to happen is these high end amounts are only going to happen in a very small area. You could have a band across somewhere in the Midlands down to the CSRA that's going to see this value, but you're not going to see this high value across the whole area like this. More likely, it's going to be a mix of that low end amount and the high end amount, with some areas kind of in between that kind of blend together. So again, this is what we call a reasonable worst case scenario, so only a 10% chance of happening. And some areas could definitely get close to this, but it's not going to look like the snowfall map come Sunday afternoon. It's not going to look like this in all likelihood. So if we look a little bit more into the meteorology as to why this is happening, the main feature is an extremely anomalous 500 millibar trough that's digging down into the southeast U.S., and it is very anomalous. It is near the 0th percentile in terms of the model guidance spread on it, with 500 millibar heights that are basically unprecedented, at least in the model reanalysis data. So here, this is a probability of the 500 millibar heights being lower than 535 decameters, and in the same 6-hour period, getting 0.1 inches of liquid. So the fact that both of those two things line up implies, first off, you're going to get snow because really, really low 500 millibar heights imply really cold temperatures. And in this case, really cold temperatures and a little bit of liquid can get really nice snowfall rates, and you can get a pretty good accumulating event without too much moisture. And overall, those really anomalous 500 millibar heights go right over our area with sufficient moisture for a decent snowstorm. So if we look a little bit more into exactly why we're expecting this to happen, as we move into Saturday morning, we'll have our amplifying low move kind of across central Georgia. And then at this point, we're going to have basically a surface low that's across South Carolina or eastern Georgia, and then a developing low off the coast. While we have this developing surface low in South Carolina, we'll get really, really strong theta E advection, which is the shading here, across portions of our area, definitely into central South Carolina north. It's a question of how far south and west it makes it. But with really strong theta E advection, that means you're going to get lift and moisture. An easy way to combine that is to just look at warm air advection, which you can infer from theta E advection. And in this case, we have a very, very strong band of warm air advection that comes across the area as we move into Saturday afternoon. And this is where we would expect those really heavy snowfall rates potentially. Exactly where this sets up is a little bit uncertain still, but highest confidence is, again, it's generally from like Columbia north towards Charlotte. There's been a lot of chatter about potential dry slot developing with this system, which is definitely a possibility during kind of the height of the event as this low kind of deepens. The question is where and how much impact that has is definitely still to be decided, but I will say with 500 millibar heights this low, dry air above 500 millibars doesn't really matter because we're going to have really strong lift, saturated low levels, and really strong warm advection from 850 to 750. So dry air at 500 millibars may not matter as much. Overall, there probably will still be some dry slotting that happens that will decrease the amount of snowfall totals for someone, but I wouldn't focus on that yet. Overall, looking like a pretty decent snowstorm for the area, definitely pretty anomalous climatologically. So, thanks.